Tow truck driver Gary arrives at Maddie Barker's house to take her car. Maddie runs outside and begs him to stop, reminding him that they used to date before she ghosted him. Her plea fails when a man from last night steps out in his underwear and grabs her, making Gary ignore her and tow the car away. Since Maddie is an Uber driver, she needs her car. She puts on rollerblades and chases Gary to a diner where he stops for breakfast. She tries to lower the car and drive off, but it's still hooked to the truck. She struggles to get away, but Gary lifts the car back up. Maddie is arrested and put on probation. She also finds out she owes back taxes and could lose her house. Maddie also works as a bartender at a waterside spot in Montauk, New York, where she has lived her whole life. She works with her best friend, Sarah, and spends time with Sarah and her husband, Jim. Maddie's boss calls her out for having an attitude after she argues with a customer who tries to buy a drink before the bar opens. During their break, Sarah shows Maddie a job listing from a rich family looking for someone to date their son before he leaves for college. In return, they are offering a Buick Regal. Maddie understands that date means sex but decides to do it because she has no other options and wants to take advantage of the rich for taking her house. The next day, Maddie rollerblades to the Becker family's house and meets the parents, Laird and Allison. They tell her about their son, Percy, who is going to Princeton in the fall. He is shy, awkward, and spends most of his time playing video games. The Beckers were hoping for someone closer to Percy's age since Maddie is 32 and Percy is 19, but she convinces them she is the right choice. However, they tell her Percy must not find out about their deal. Laird and Allison tell Maddie to find Percy at a dog shelter. She wears a tight dress to seduce him and pretends she wants to adopt a dog. Percy shows her a former police dog named Milo, who was fired for getting addicted to cocaine. As Maddie flirts with Percy, he gets nervous and tries to leave early. She offers him a ride home using Jim's van. When they get to Maddie's house, Percy suddenly pulls out a can of mace and sprays her in the face. Maddie, in pain, explains that she just thought he was attractive. Percy says he would rather go on a real date, and Maddie agrees. Later, she returns the van to Jim and Sarah, calling Percy unfuckable. That night, Maddie takes Percy to a bar. She gets him a Long Island iced tea, but he hates it. A man named Travis, who used to date Maddie, approaches them. He flashes his wedding ring and says Maddie running out on him was the best thing that ever happened to him. He then warns Percy not to get attached to her. Maddie takes Percy to the beach for a skinny dipping session. At first, he is hesitant, but she convinces him to join her. While they are in the water, 3 drunk teenagers steal their clothes, including their wallets, phones, and keys. Maddie, completely naked, comes out of the water and fights all 3 teens, 2 guys and a girl, until they give everything back. When she returns to the water, Percy is shocked by how aggressive she was and tells her there is something wrong with her. Maddie ignores him, gets dressed, and starts her car to leave. Still naked, Percy demands his phone back, but when Maddie refuses, he jumps onto the hood of her car. She drives off with him hanging on, completely exposed. The police spot them and start chasing Maddie. Worried about losing her license, she speeds up and manages to cross the train tracks just in time, escaping the cops. Later, back at her house, Maddie makes another attempt to seduce Percy. She dances for him and asks him to do the same, but then she notices a rash on his back. Percy explains that it's caused by anxiety. Maddie applies lotion to his back, and he begins to open up about his past. He shares that his classmates bullied him for sleeping in his parents' bedroom, spreading false rumors that he was having an inappropriate relationship with them. Because of this, he avoided socializing. Maddie also shares an embarrassing story from her own past, allowing them to connect. The next day, Doug Kahn, a former classmate of Maddie, arrives at her house. Now working as a realtor, he offers to sell her house for full price. However, Maddie refuses, determined to find a way to keep it. Meanwhile, Percy asks Maddie to spend the day with him on a real date, and she agrees. They go to an arcade, play games, and win prizes, but they get kicked out when Maddie messes with another kid. Later, they visit a lighthouse, where Percy asks Maddie if he can kiss her. She lets him, though his inexperience makes it a little awkward. As they talk, Maddie opens up about her past. She explains that she never left Montauk and has stayed in the same house with her mother because her father gave it to them, along with some money, so they wouldn't bother him and his new family. They then visit Percy's former nanny, Jody, an adult man. Jody is suspicious of Maddie, sensing that something is off about her. In response, Maddie deflects, calling him creepy for being a male nanny to a teenage boy. Maddie and Percy go to a fancy restaurant for a special prom-like date since neither of them attended their actual prom. During dinner, Maddie encourages Percy to play the piano after he mentions he knows how. He surprises everyone by performing Maneater, earning cheers and applause from the entire restaurant. Maddie is also impressed. After his performance, a girl from Percy's school, Natalie, approaches him to compliment his playing. She mentions that she will also be attending Princeton and invites Percy to a party for incoming students. Maddie tries to discourage him, worried he might sleep with Natalie or another girl, but Percy insists on going. They take a limo to the party, and Maddie follows Percy inside. She awkwardly navigates a crowd of wealthy teenagers who see her as too old to be there. Eventually, she finds Percy in bed with Natalie, but instead of anything happening, he is sick from mixing alcohol with ibuprofen. Maddie helps him throw up, but before she can do much more, the parents hosting the party enter and demand she leave. As Percy tries to stand up for Maddie, he accidentally punches her in the throat. After they leave, Percy tells Maddie in the limo that he is finally ready to be intimate with her. However, when he says that he loves her, Maddie realizes he is too drunk and decides not to go through with it. Laird and Allison notice a change in Percy. He's more confident and social. He tells them it's because of his new girlfriend. However, he also announces that he's no longer going to Princeton because he wants to stay close to Maddie. Concerned, Allison calls Maddie, who has started to feel guilty about the whole arrangement. Laird offers Maddie the car without requiring her to continue seeing Percy, hoping to keep him from giving up on Princeton. Unfortunately, Percy is sitting in his parents' car when they call, and the conversation plays over the speakers. He hears Maddie mention wanting the car without having to sleep with him, leaving him heartbroken. Later, Percy invites Maddie over for lunch to meet his parents. However, during the meal, he starts drinking wine and acting passive-aggressively. Afterward, he heads out with his coworker, Crispin, and takes the Buick into the woods. They send it crashing into a tree, which then falls onto the car, destroying it. When Percy returns, he and Maddie decide to finally have sex and get it over with. However, before anything can really happen, Percy prematurely ejaculates on her thigh. He then reveals that he knows everything about the arrangement and no longer wants to see Maddie. He coldly tells her that she will be stuck in Montauk forever before walking away. Gary brings Maddie the damaged Buick since her name is on the papers. She's now stuck using the wrecked car for her Uber job while Percy retreats to his room, playing video games and ignoring her texts and calls. After a while, Maddie manages to raise enough money to fix the car and pay off her taxes. She celebrates with Jim and Sarah, but their celebration is bittersweet when they announce they're moving to Florida for the sake of their baby, leaving Maddie feeling isolated and alone. Realizing she has no ties left, Maddie contacts Doug and agrees to sell her house. She sells it to Jim and Sarah so they can stay and raise their child there. With a new sense of direction, Maddie begins making plans to move to California. Maddie learns that Percy is at a Princeton mixer and goes to find him. Despite her attempts to explain herself, he refuses to talk. In frustration, she climbs onto the hood of his car, and he drives off with her hanging on. They end up driving through a beach where Maddie accidentally catches fire from a barbecue grill, causing Percy to panic. He drives into the water, desperately searching for her. They eventually find each other and tearfully apologize, reconciling at last. Afterward, Maddie tells Percy that she's moving to California, and he expresses happiness for her. He also reassures her that it still counts that he lost his virginity to her, even though it didn't go as planned. On the day Percy is set to leave for Princeton, he packs his bags and says goodbye to Laird and Allison. Maddie surprises him by showing up to drive him to college and revealing that she has adopted Milo, the dog he once cared for. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.